Rain lashed against the cobblestones, each drop exploding in a miniature burst of despair. The air was thick with the scent of wet asphalt and the distant murmur of traffic. London wept, its normally vibrant streets now slick and desolate, reflecting the melancholic glow of streetlights. Shadows danced in the flickering gaslight, adding an eerie charm to the city's soaked demeanor. It was a night for solitude, a night for secrets whispered on the wind. Daniel hurried through the downpour, his trench coat pulled tight against the chill. His breath rose in ragged puffs of white, quickly snatched away by the wind. He was returning home from a late meeting, his mind still buzzing with the day's anxieties. His apartment, a small but cozy haven in the heart of the city, beckoned with the promise of warmth and solitude. As he rounded a corner onto a less traveled street, a flash of white caught his eye. A woman, her silhouette stark against the dark brick wall, sat huddled on the steps of a closed shop. Her shoulders shook with silent sobs. Daniel hesitated, a pang of concern overriding his initial instinct to hurry on. It was unlike him to intrude, yet something about the woman's utter despair drew him in. As he approached, he saw that she was young, her face pale and streaked with tears. Her blonde hair, plastered to her head by the rain, framed delicate features twisted in anguish. She wore a simple white dress, now soaked and clinging to her slender frame. She was the very image of forlorn beauty, a fallen angel lost in the urban deluge. "Excuse me," Daniel ventured, his voice barely audible above the drumming rain. "Are you all right? Can I help?" The woman flinched at the sound of his voice, her head snapping up in alarm. Her eyes, wide and blue, were filled with a mixture of fear and despair. For a moment, she simply stared at him as if gauging his intentions. Then, with a fresh wave of sobs, she buried her face in her hands. I have nowhere to go," she choked out, her voice barely a whisper. "I lost my job, and I have no money, and—" Her voice trailed off, overcome with emotion. Daniel's heart ached for her. He couldn't bear to leave her stranded on the street in this weather. He knew London could be a cruel mistress, especially to those with nowhere else to turn. "Look," he said gently, "it's pouring and you're soaked through. Why don't you come back to my apartment? It's not far from here and you can at least dry off and have something warm to drink." The woman hesitated, her eyes searching his face. Daniel could see the war raging within her, pride battling desperation. He offered her a reassuring smile. "I promise you're safe with me," he added softly. "I just want to help." Finally she nodded, a flicker of gratitude replacing the fear in her eyes. She rose shakily to her feet and Daniel offered her his arm. Together they walked in silence through the rain, two souls seeking solace in each other's company. Back at his apartment, Daniel busied himself making tea while the woman, who introduced herself as Isabella, warmed herself by the electric fireplace. He learned that she had been working as a model but had been let go from her agency that very day. She'd come to London with dreams of gracing magazine covers but found the reality of the industry far harsher than she'd imagined. "I have so many photos," Isabella said, her voice low as she sipped her tea. "Beautiful photos, tasteful but daring. I had hoped they'd be my ticket to success." Daniel, who ran a network of websites, perked up. "What kind of photos?" he asked cautiously. Isabella blushed, a flicker of hope igniting in her eyes. "The kind men would pay to see," she said softly. "Bikinis, lingerie, some without." An idea began to form in Daniel's mind. He had a website, Titan magazine, that could use some fresh content. "Isabella," he began, choosing his words carefully, "I think I might be able to help you." He explained about Titan magazine, the potential audience, and the possibility of selling her photos online. Isabella listened intently, her initial hesitation giving way to cautious optimism. They discussed the logistics, the pricing, the split of profits. By the time they were finished, a plan was in place, a partnership forged from desperation and a shared desire for success. As the evening wore on, the mood shifted. The shared vulnerability had fostered a connection between them, a sense of intimacy that transcended their unusual circumstances. They talked, really talked, for the first time that night. Isabella shared her dreams, her fears, her disillusionment with the cutthroat world of modeling. Daniel listened with empathy, his own anxieties fading in the face of her raw honesty. The rain continued to fall outside, but inside Daniel's apartment a different kind of storm was brewing. A look passed between them, a silent acknowledgement of the attraction that had simmered beneath the surface all evening. When Daniel leaned in, his lips finding hers, it felt as natural as breathing. The kiss was tender yet passionate, a release of pent-up emotions, a promise of comfort and connection. That night, as they lay together, the storm raging outside faded into insignificance compared to the tempest of emotions raging within them. The morning dawned bright and clear, washing away the remnants of the storm. London, no longer weeping, sparkled in the sunlight, a city renewed. Isabella, wrapped in Daniel's robe, stood at the window, her silhouette bathed in the golden light. She looked at him, a soft smile gracing her lips. "Thank you," she whispered, her voice husky with emotion, "for everything." Daniel smiled back, his heart full. He knew this was just the beginning. They had a lot of work to do, photos to upload, a website to promote. But for the first time in a long time, he felt a surge of excitement, a sense of purpose that went beyond profit margins and website traffic. He had found a partner, a muse, perhaps even... "Come on," he said, pulling her close. "Let's show Titan magazine what real beauty looks like." As they worked together, side by side, the air crackled with energy, a potent mix of ambition and desire. The future stretched before them, full of possibilities, a blank canvas upon which they would paint their dreams. And it all began on a rainy night in London with a chance encounter that blossomed into something much, much more.